That's a win for the Phoenix Suns. They go to Detroit, and they do what you're supposed to do when you play like the worst team in the NBA. They beat them. They beat the pants off of them. And they now go to 2-0 on this 5-game road trip. Everything you expected tonight, right, Matthew, who's wearing the same shirt as me?
Yeah, we look good, man. Everything we expected last night. Surprise win tonight. Kind of a surprise win. You were expecting maybe a letdown, but they held in there, man. Cameron Johnson was rested. He came in there and rescued us. We look good.
Yeah, 16-point victory for your Phoenix Suns. Absolutely demolished the Detroit Pistons, I feel, in pretty much every aspect of the game. And we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the fact that the Kyrie rumors are continuing to swirl. We'll talk about the trade deadline. We'll talk about the fact that this is show number 420, Matthew. Show 420.
Yeah.
It's
exciting. We actually talked about Elon Musk tweeted out 420, so he must know. You know, it's a big day for us today.
He's a fan. He's a fan. And also joining us on the podcast, you might know him from the Coast to Coast podcast, from the 98.7 Suns postgame show, from KSNR Arizona, from the Believe Podcast Network. Dude, Flex from Jersey, like that resume you got is just stacked, bro.
What's up, fellas? Pleasure to be on, man. I miss you guys.
Yeah, it's been quite some time since we had Flex. It's funny because Matthew and I were talking, I think yesterday, and we're saying, I remember a year and a half ago, we had asked you to be on the show, you know, just to talk about the upcoming draft or something. And all of a sudden, like the CP3 news broke. And then we asked you to be on the show a couple days ago, and then all this Kyrie nonsense happened. So I think what we got to do is just start asking you to be on the show more often, and more crazy shit will happen with the Suns.
I think you're right, man. I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, yo, these guys are in tune. Like these guys know when something's coming, man. You guys planned it out perfectly.
Yeah, we're not going to hit you up when the Suns are losing like 9 out of 11 games. We'll wait until we turn a corner on something. But shout out to Black Sunday in the chat, the super chat, Flex the GOAT, $20 in the super chat. We'll give you the 25 cents we get from that Flex. We'll give to you.
We good, baby.
But again, welcome everybody to another edition of the Suns Jam Session podcast, the original post-game podcast on Planet Orange. Make sure you subscribe, rate, and review. If you happen to be on Apple Podcasts, drop us one of those 5-star reviews. We'll read it right here on the podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button while you're here. But it's a Saturday night. You're hanging out with the Suns Jam Session podcast. I'm going to drink this delicious Detroit Tears IPA. Very hoppy, very hoppy. Yep. Oh, okay. So Flex is pounding some Pepsi. And I know, Matthew, you got it's show 420. So Matthew's like, he's 3. You got to be 3 gummies.
Yeah,
now, right?
Yeah. I already popped a couple,
All right,
so
perfect.
If I'm gone, just remove me from the screen.
Just keep going without you. Well, pop them if you got them, Suns fans, or smoke them if you got them. Let's talk about this victory of the Detroit Pistons. 100, the Phoenix Suns do what they should do. They TCOB, take care of business in Detroit, which brings me to my first question.
Matthew, I got to ask.
Matthew, Flex, I got to ask. This is our 420th episode of the Suns Jam Session podcast. Do you think to celebrate that the officials were high tonight?
Yeah, I did. There was nonstop whistles. I think it was like in the second quarter, it seemed like we played maybe 30 minutes of basketball, but it was only 2 minutes in the game. So there were times where it's hard to watch, man, especially a game where you kind of just want to get it over with. The refs were just dragging it along, and they were very, very inconsistent. But it's one of those reffing crews that you're just like, all right. I mean, there's going to be a lot of coaches, their butts are not going to be in the seat. They're going to be standing around yelling at these refs, and that's the way it was almost all game.
Yeah, 100%. They knew it was 420 for y'all. So, yeah, it makes perfect sense, man. I was feeling the same thing. I was like, damn, this is dragging a little bit. But that's a nightly occurrence in the NBA, man. It's just you damn if you do, damn if you don't. Sometimes you got too many whistles, and then sometimes you're like, where are the whistles? So it's like I can't figure it out, man. It's a roller coaster. But I'm with you. It was 420. It was because of y'all.
Yeah, I mean the officials blew the whistle 18 times in the first 15 minutes of the game, and as a Suns fan, that's the exact last thing you want to see in a game when you're taking on the Pistons, right? You're going against this team that enters the game, and I think they're like 14-39, right? They just won last night, which gave them their 7th win at home in 26 appearances. They're just a team that just doesn't play well, period. A perennial lottery team, a team that's without Cade Cunningham, a team that doesn't need any assistance to stay in the game, because we've seen it too often, right? When we take on like the Rockets. The Houston Rockets are a team that the Phoenix Suns are 1-2 against this season. And part of the reason we're 1-2 is because those teams who have talent have the ability to stick around in games. They knock down a couple shots, confidence builds, and confidence is a scary thing when you're facing a team like the Detroit Pistons. We're blessed in the fact that the Phoenix Suns were led by DeAndre Ayton tonight and Mikal Bridges and Cameron Johnson, and they ultimately did not allow those officials to have an impact on this game, which brings me to Ayton Watch, guys.
Ayton Watch.
Ooh, man, we're going to tear DeAndre Ayton down today, boy. Whew. 31 points, 16 rebounds on 13 of 15 shooting, 5 of 6 from the free throw line. He had 2 assists. He had a block. Flex even dunked the ball tonight. Can any of the Ayton haters be frustrated with DeAndre Ayton tonight?
No, hell no. I mean, what, he missed 2 shots? I mean, honestly, I'm going back to check right now because I think the last time 13 or 15. I mean, the dude shot damn near 90%. Like, I got no problem with DA, man. But he did what he was supposed to do against the Pistons team tonight. The trio was incredible. But let's stick to DA because that's the question. Yeah, one of the better performances we've seen this season from DA as far as across the board consistency.
So, Matthew, do you think that he's upping his trade value?
Yeah, that's what's so frustrating to watch. It's like, I hope it's not because he knows he might be traded or something. We'll talk about that later. But dude, tonight, like, I feel like this is the best game he had all season. He started off very, very patient in the post. And I think that's what kind of led to a good game. I know it's like Bogdanovich is covering him or whatever, but still, like, he was patient. He had some good passes there in the paint. He got his hook shot off really nicely. It looked fluid because he was taking his time. I think when he comes out to games and starts really, really trying to ramp it up, gets super excited. I think he talked about before in an interview. He's like, I just get so excited when I get the ball because I don't know when I'm going to get it again. Like, he does that a lot, but then tonight it was just like, take it easy. And he had those dunks, and I like how it was Bogdanovich, but there was this pass where he's going into the rim, and he just tries to dunk it. He's kind of off to the left, but he still tries to dunk it because he can, and he got the foul called. He missed the dunk, but that was huge. It just kind of set the tone, and with the reffing, like, he was actually talking to the refs. There was a foul call that they didn't call. Usually he'll say something and run down the court and not speak to the ref again. But after the next play, he went back to the ref and explained. And I think it kind of helped, dude, especially like a game tonight where they keep calling fouls. It's like, you got to just say a little thing here or there and you'll keep going to the line. That's what happened, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what I really enjoyed is some of the feedback that we notice and provide very vocally on this podcast are those games in which DeAndre Ayton doesn't put forth the consistent energy throughout the game, or his shot selection in that he'll fade away from a defender and avoid contact. Everything that he did today was towards the rim. And that is what we love to see. That's why, again, I don't expect DA to go 13 of 15 every time he goes out there. If he's shooting 60%, like, that's a huge win. That's where he should be living at 6-0. So I mean, that's 8 or 9 out of 15. The fact that he went 13 out of 15 is fantastic, but it's the way that he goes about his game that can provide some frustration to people who are overanalyzing his game. And what we saw tonight, as I mentioned, was him constantly and consistently attacking the basket. The way that they were carving the Pistons up with that pick and roll tonight was comical. It was like watching Nash and Stoudemire, who used to PNR people to death until they could stop it. The Pistons could not stop it tonight. And DA is the one who benefited from that because Chris Paul he found him every time on that pick and roll, and he finished. He was. I will say this: the first couple fouls that were called on him were some of the weakest fouls that I've seen, and that goes back to kind of our conversation relative to the officiating in this game. But what I was most impressed with, I think, is how the Phoenix Suns continued to feed him in the third quarter. How often will we sit there and we'll watch a great performance from DeAndre Ayton in that first half? And this first half was no exception. He had a double-double in the first half. He had 19 points and 10 rebounds. And then we see the Phoenix Suns just vacate any passes to him. Doesn't exist. Well, in the third quarter, he came out. He was 4-4 from the field. He had 8 points and 5 boards. How nice was it, Flex, to see the Suns not go away from DeAndre Ayton? And when they do go away from DeAndre Ayton, why do you think that is? You're on mute. I can't hear you.
Sorry, brother. Sorry.
And he's back.
Yeah. No, it's pretty clear that DeAndre's game is predicated on activity and involvement. And when you go through these stretches where, like you said, he'll have a pretty good first half, and then he doesn't touch the ball, it seems like, for like 8-9 minutes. And no hyperbole there. I mean, we've seen it happen. You just like, where's DeAndre? I think that's on Monty, and I think that's on his teammates to understand the type of player DeAndre is. I mean, sometimes everyone is built different in basketball, and DeAndre is one of those unique players that you get the best out of him when he's engaged and he feels like he's involved. And so tonight they did a good job of doing that. Now, this is a Pistons team that tends to allow you to do that. That's where I'm a little bit like, I want to see if they're willing to do that at a higher level versus higher competition on a bigger stage. It seems like they tend to do this more in these type of games, but I think it's the games that have more value and a little bit more higher intensity that we seem to see these things happen where they go away from him. But tonight was terrific, and the trio in general was terrific. I mean, all three of those guys. And I got one thing about DeAndre that's kind of becoming a trend. Matt Ishbia sits courtside, and there's something different about him. so I mean, you got the owner, you got the new owner in the house watching him sitting courtside, and I'm saying that tongue in cheek, and I'm actually kidding, but I don't know if I am.
Maybe, yeah, you might not be wrong.
You got the new owner sitting there watching. I think you put your best foot forward. So, but good to see him rock tonight. This was impressive tonight.
Yeah, it's like when everything's on the line, when his contract's on the line, whenever the playoffs, gets heated and he needs to, step up, he usually does. I think it just takes, of course, every player on that team to keep motivating him. John and I went to the game a couple games ago, and we're just watching the bench. Like, these guys are on him the whole time. Like, they're tapping his chest, telling him, like, hey, come on, keep going. And he knocks over a chair. I don't know if he's frustrated with himself or if he's just like frustrated with, maybe not getting the ball. But tonight, like, they did keep going back to it, which is nice. And he is a player, like, I forget who was talking about, like, Derrick Henry, the football player, the running back for the Titans. He's a player that needs the ball 20 times to really get going, right? 20 to 30 times. DA needs that too, but then you also need DA to reciprocate that and just, make sure that he's rolling on those picks, make sure he's doing what he needs to do, and he'll get the ball. So he is that type of player to keep going. And I think just the big focus was really with him when he started the game so, like, patient, man. I never seen that. So the motivation for him maybe happened before the game was something, because he hasn't come out and really played that, like, smoothly in a while. You know what I mean? So something had to happen where someone talked to him or something. But that's a constant thing with him, though. Like, these guys have to be all over him all the time.
Yeah, maybe it was Ishbia who talked to him before the game. He's like, "Listen,
right?
It might have been, yeah.
I need this from you, man. I need this from you," because he scored 31 points tonight. It was the fourth time this season he scored over 30 points. 31 points is his season high. He did that on the 28th of December against the Washington Wizards. It's his first time in his career he has a 30-15 game. And to Flex's point, you don't read too much into these things. It's a victim of circumstance, but the new owner's right there. It's like, hey, man, don't trade me in a week, dude. I'm good. I want to be on this
5
team.
days, man. I want to be here past the next 5 days.
Yeah, it's like if you start to make some transactions, like, I still want to be here. So, again, the other side of that is this is the fucking Pistons, okay? Like, he should do this. It's just like a couple games ago when he had another one of his really solid performances when they played against Portland, or not Portland. God, I'm going way back. Who was it? The Atlanta Hawks, when he went for 20-9, and the game before that, Toronto, when that we were at, Matthew, where we went for 22-13. Like, those are teams with small interiors and don't have a lot of depth behind their original five. Even last night against Boston, it was 14-10. It wasn't anything crazy, but it's the manner in which he did it, knowing that they don't have a lot of depth behind it. Like, this is what he should be doing. So you get what you get with DeAndre Ayton. You get what you get from the Suns Jam Session podcast on this topic. When he plays well, I praise it. When he plays like shit, I call him out on it. That's just the way it goes. And I guess that's part of being a fan, right, guys?
Yeah, and that's the same thing we did with Booker too. I don't like.
Yeah.
The worst part about this is when you watch him and the trade deadline is coming up. It's like, I really don't want him to trade. I want him to be involved with this going forward, the way he played tonight. And a lot of people think like it's Ayton hating stuff, but we just know this is in him, obviously. And we did the same thing with Booker, man. And like, I even told Suns Geek that, like 3 years ago when we started this pod, like I was like, this Booker's going to be the best Sun when he retires of all time. And this was when we were giving him a lot of shit about a lot of stuff he was doing wrong on the court, and he got better, man. So that's the same thing we're doing with Ayton.
Well, I just don't know how many people remember Suns Twitter pre-Ayton, because it was a lot of holding Devin Booker accountable for his inconsistent play and the way that his attitude on the court would be, and the way that he would yell at teammates and things like that. We used to talk about it all the time, right, guys?
Selective amnesia, man.
Yes.
It's really selective amnesia. I mean, all these guys at some point have gone through that. The one thing I will say about DA that I've reiterated many times on many shows, guys, and I don't know if I've said it on this show, but I damn sure I've said it on the Coast to Coast and other shows. And this is something that I ride and die with DeAndre Ayton. There are certain players in basketball throughout my life of watching basketball. There's certain guys that are built for the regular season, and there's certain guys that are built for the playoffs. And I don't get too tied up with DeAndre Ayton during the regular season when he has this roller coasters of up and downs, because I actually subscribe to the fact that this guy is tailor-made and built for the playoffs. It's just one of those things that I believe. I don't know if the stats back me up on that, but I just believe that DeAndre Ayton is a guy that thrives in the playoff atmosphere, because everything he does in a playoff game amplifies and it means more. It's almost like baseball, right? You got 162 games in a season, and if you're like in July watching a baseball game, you're bored to tears by the third inning. But then when October rolls around, every pitch matters, and that's where you start to see the little nuances and the intricacies of these players. And I think when you're in a position where every possession matters, every defensive rotation matters, every rebound, every block, every kick out, that's where DeAndre thrives. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what the next iteration of DeAndre is when we get into the playoffs, because I do think there's enough improvement during the regular season to make me feel like he's grown. Although I know a lot of people are down on him.
Well, and again, that's part of the victim of this beast that is the Jam Session, right? Like, we are a reactionary podcast.
Of course,
we go live after every game. So
of course, no. I mean, I love you guys for this shit, man. I love it. I mean,
John's been on one this year too, man.
I've been on one.
We're getting old. We're getting cranky. It's
my sciatic nerve aches.
It's not always fun.
Matter.
But just really quick too. Sorry. Go ahead. I don't know. DA, he picks it up at this time of the year too. Every time during the trade deadline or after, that's when he starts to play better. So, anyways, sorry.
And what I was saying last night, when I was at Marley's, I was hanging out there with Dan Duarte and Justin and Paul from Fan of the Flames and Coach Evan B from the He's on Fire podcast. If only Marley's knew the podcast royalty that was in the house last night. We would have got a drink comp.
What was the reservation under?
We made it under Matthew Lissy.
Oh, okay.
My man Dan told me about that. I was ready to try to get on a private jet or something and go meet y'all, man.
It was a good time. Just a lot of good conversation. And that's one of the things that I was saying is, like, as much as we might be reactionary, I'm not obtuse to the point that I understand that exactly who and what DeAndre Ayton is and what his value is come playoff time. Because we hear all those different what ifs, right? Oh, if we just got Nurkic in here, it'd be amazing. It's like, yeah, and then we get played off the court in the first round. Like, you can't play DeAndre Ayton off the court in the playoffs in a 7-game series. That's where his value truly lies. Now, we'll continue night after night asking for the world from him, just like we did Devin Booker for all those years prior to us essentially going, hey, now it's DeAndre Ayton's turn, because Booker started to put it together. But when the playoffs come, to your point, Flex, like, that's when he displays his value. And statistically, he's shown that as well. It's not like it's, he had 2 good games in the postseason, took us to the finals one year, and he was not the issue in the New Orleans series last year or in the Mavericks series. It was the rest of the players on the bench. So we've beaten that one to death. Let's talk about Mikal Bridges in this game a little bit, because he played fantastic again. Mikal Bridges, 9 of 15 from the field. He and DeAndre Ayton led the Suns with 15 shot attempts each, which they should with Devin Booker out. He was 3 of 7 from beyond the arc. He added in 3 assists, 2 steals, a couple rebounds, and 24 total points. So 31 from DeAndre, 24 from Mikal Bridges. Another great game, right? Backing up exactly what he did in the game against the Boston Celtics. This game, obviously, not nearly as high leverage possessions as was needed last night against the Celtics. But Matthew, we saw another great Bridges game, man. Like, we just Bridges drum. It's fantastic.
When he's running those sets that Booker runs and hitting those shots, it's like, you know what? I did say that Booker was untradeable, but maybe we trade him for Kyrie. Who knows? Because the way Mikal's playing right now, hot take. Just kidding. No way.
We'll get there.
The way he's playing, though, what is it? 23 points per game in the last 10 games.
Mm-hmm.
It's just crazy how well he's playing. And I love that Monty's still putting a lot on him. And, games like this, it's kind of a blowout, but then the Pistons kind of make a little bit of a run here or there towards the end of the game. You just know that you can count on him and DA now to really kind of close it out in their own ways. I kind of miss like the old days when the Suns team used to close out games where it used to be like Book hits a shot, then it's Chris Paul hits a shot, then Mikal, and then Ayton gets a rebound, he gets a block. That was so much fun. Like,
we'll get back there.
We'll get back there. And you know what? They're kind of making their way there. And it's going to be interesting when Booker returns this Tuesday, if he is still going to play Tuesday, how he adjusts.
Yes.
He is playing?
He's playing Tuesday.
Yeah, he looked like tonight. He looked like he was like, I'm ready. He probably wished he was back in Detroit playing with all his family there, man. But yeah, that's great. Mikal, always same story. So go ahead, Flex. What do you got, man?
No. I mean, just for clarity, man. Book's playing Tuesday. Cool. Book's doing great, man. I mean, he could have came back versus Atlanta, Toronto, but honestly, the Suns getting on that little win streak, bought them an extra week or so. And so that's the smart thing to do. So, but yeah, we expect Book back. And to Mikal's point, I call him Young Scotty, man. I've been calling him Young Scotty for years.
You coined the phrase about 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, yes, sir. That's my guy, man. And you know what? I've been around the game of basketball, my entire life. And I know enough to know that, sometimes the light bulb goes off a little bit later for guys. You know what I mean? But the crazy thing is you need the opportunity and you need to be put in certain situations to allow that to happen. And I know people get tired of hearing me say it. I say it on Twitter a lot, blessings in disguise. This was a blessing in disguise having all these injuries this year, because you're allowing these guys to get out of their shell. And now Mikal Bridges is confident. And the difference is confidence is usually the last thing that comes. Like you play your game and you evolve and you work on your skills and you work on certain parameters of your game. And then the last thing that comes is that killer instinct, that confidence that says, yo, I can outplay anybody. I'm actually the best player on the court. And I'm telling you right now, I'm looking at Mikal, I'm watching the tape. I'm seeing a guy that goes on the court now and says, hey, I'm the best damn player on the court. And that is night and day from what we've seen a couple years ago. And so, like, someone asked me the other day, they were like, well, what's the difference if you double book in the playoffs? And, the difference is that this Mikal Bridges, if you double book and you get the ball to this Mikal Bridges, that guy's going to attack the basket, trust his mid-range game, get to the elbow, and do certain things. Mikal Bridges last year was probably going to be okay settling with a three-point shot and moving on. So it's a crazy dynamic, and the beautiful part about it is finding beauty in the struggle is that it's not only Mikal. You're starting to see Cam Johnson now take that stride. We see it with DA right now. So a lot of people want the external help, but I'm a big believer in the guys right now that what they're doing and how they're evolving. That equates to me the same thing as getting external help. These guys are different ball players. They're much different than they were before Book got hurt. And it's going to be scary. I just hope he stays aggressive when Book comes back. That's what I want.
That was my next question for you, Flex. And I know that I've asked Matthew this, and I've posted on Bright Side of the Sun as well, is when Devin Booker returns, will we continue to see this level of aggression from Mikal Bridges? We know that his shot attempts will go down. He's been averaging 14.9 shot attempts with Devin Booker out, which is up from 12 when Devin Booker was in. So it's not a drastic amount of change. The efficiency's been better. He's been running a lot of Book's sets on the floor. Do we see him ultimately go, okay, I don't have to carry the load for a while? Or does he embrace the fact that he is young Scotty and that his Jordan is back now?
Right. I think I think he embraces it. And I tell you why he embraces it. This is just my opinion on it. I think he embraces it because he believes it now. That's the key. He believes it now. He actually believes that he can do these things. And then I think the other part of it is the guy that's coming back believes it too. So basketball is a weird thing, man. You know, it's a beautiful game, and confidence plays a big part of it. I think he stays aggressive because I think he's found his confidence, and I think he's proven to his teammates that he no longer has to play that background. I think that he can now say, hey, Book, because think about this, guys, and I don't want to sound long-winded here, but I've had this conversation. Think about this. You're Mikal Bridges, and when you get CP and Book back on the court, a younger version of Mikal, there's got to be that one split second where you catch the ball and you say, is passing it back to Book a better shot? Is getting it back to Chris a better shot? And that plays into the psyche of these guys. But now I think when he catches the ball, he actually may believe, hey, you know what, guys? I can get the better shot here. I can do this. And I think it's reciprocated with the confidence. You see Devin Booker. He's the biggest cheerleader for Mikal Bridges right now. And guess what? Devin Booker is a hell of a smart individual. You know why? Because Devin's playing chess, not checkers. Devin understands it's in my best interest to get the best version of Mikal Bridges, because when that happens, you just can't double me no more. So, yes, I do think that this version of Mikal Bridges is going to be better suited to say, hey, I'm going to keep doing this. And I know that if I keep doing this, it only helps the team.
Yeah, I was going to say the same exact thing. Like, I think at the end of games last year where, you know, Mikal's sitting in the corner, but he's like, you know, we got Chris Paul, we have Devin Booker to hit the shots, a better shot. You know, James Jones says that Mikal is a winner. He's always won, you know, even in college. So he wants to make sure that the team's succeeding in the right places on the court. And he feels, and he probably felt last year and even the beginning of this year, like if Chris Paul and Devin Booker have the ball, they can get a better shot. Now that he knows he can, like, that's going to change a lot. Like, if none of these trades come through, because they probably won't or whatever, because we're the Suns, we can rely on him, man, because he's just that accurate. So I'm just saying, like, this is something that down the line, like, he knows, like, my shot is just as good as Booker's shot and Chris Paul's. And now that Chris Paul's taking a step back, kind of, you know, he's not like the guy last year where he was ending games by himself. Mikal's been stepping up. So that's huge that he recognizes that going forward.
Yeah.
And another guy who's been playing fantastic since his return, he's had a couple off games and didn't play last night, was Cameron Johnson, who we'll talk about after this message from DraftKings.
Hey, NBA fans, it's time to bring the hoops action to the palm of your hands with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. This week, new customers can bet $5 and win $200 in free bets instantly. Plus, for a limited time, all new and existing customers can get a no-sweat same-game parlay every day. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app today, opt in, and place a same-game parlay on any NBA game, and if it doesn't hit, you get a free bet back. Bet on them Phoenix Suns to win the championship. They're plus 1,900 right now. Download the app now and sign up with code TBPN. New customers can bet $5 on the NBA and get $200 in free bets instantly. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, with code TBPN. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. Void in Ohio. See show notes for details.
There you go.
Yo, Matt. I love you, dog. That was awesome. Let me tell you something. When I'm in Phoenix, I'm picking you up because you're making it rain right now.
Oh, thanks, dude. Yeah,
I love it.
That's all the director and John right there, man. We went through a lot that day, and I had to get back in the studio. We have to, or back to the set because we got to make some more.
Yeah, we got to make some more because we got this
Yeah.
DraftKings sponsorship now, so we have to do new commercials all the time. And I don't like sitting there and reading it, so I just Matthew and I make a commercial. He's the man with the golden gun, right?
My brother, you'll fit in New York City, baby. You make it rain out here, man. I love
That's
it.
good to know. Yeah, I'll bring it and
love
see how it works out.
I'm scooping you up with that gold gun. I'm scooping you up.
Cool. I'm excited.
Let's talk a little Cam Johnson.
Lights, Cameron, action.
23 minutes played tonight for Cameron Johnson. I thought that Monty Williams did a really good job with his rotations. Playing him about 6 minutes a quarter was his game plan. Ended with 20 points. Ended 7 of 9 from the field, including 3 of 4 from beyond the arc. Couple rebounds, couple assists, couple steals. I really am impressed with the way that Monty Williams, as I mentioned, is reintegrating him into this offense following an injury. Right? He's giving him a night off here. He's only playing him 6 minutes because he was the first guy out and Dario Saric came in. And this is the advantage of having Dario Saric give you quality minutes is you have the flexibility to do this. These are the things that the Phoenix Suns lacked for the back end of December and the majority of January was the sheer depth to do things like this, is to have players come in, play for 6 minutes, take a night off, get some rest, play the long game instead of the short game, and the Phoenix Suns are winning basketball games because of it.
So Cameron Johnson took last night's game off, and we were like, well, shouldn't you take this game off? I guess Monty knew what he was doing. I mean, the way the Suns have been playing defense, it's been, nonstop hustle, and they're keeping in these games for that reason. But dude, Cam Johnson, he'll give you a quick 20. It was only 22 minutes played tonight, 20 points, 3 for 4 from 3. And I love his energy tonight, man. And he, this team might have been tired, but I feel like with his energy coming in, it just kept it kind of evenly balanced all game for the rest of the team. And they fed off of that because he doesn't do a lot of celebrating and stuff to really get that kind of energy that way. But just the way he plays and he hustles on the court, I think this team really feeds off of it.
Yeah, man. I love what I'm seeing from Killer Cam right now, man. I mean, he's grown up tremendously coming back from this injury.
Yeah.
And you know what's crazy? I was having a conversation with someone before Cam came back, and sometimes having an injury and sitting on the bench and watching the game slow down and watching what your teammates are doing in the spots where you should be at and seeing what's really required from you. Sometimes that does wonders for players. And I went through it myself firsthand, being able to just sit down and say, okay, while I was playing, this is the way I was digesting the game. And then being able to sit back on the bench and just see it with my own eyes, it kind of slows things down for you. And that's what I think I'm seeing from Cam Johnson. I think he's really found his niche, and he completely understands the role that he needs to play and how he needs to execute it. He looks more balanced. He looks more not so sped up. He also looks like he's taking a page from Devin Booker and Mikal Bridges, because I'm seeing him, people running him off the 3 line, 2-3 dribble into the middle, nice little mid-range jumper.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all these little things are things that I think he's been able to acquire during his time out. And he's growing unbelievably, guys. I think Cam has got a bright future. And that's a guy that I think his gravity alone, without him Cam is the type of guy where he doesn't have to he doesn't have to light up the box score. I really believe when you got the right lineups out there, his gravity and his ability to shoot, and the fact that the other players in the league and coaches understand this guy's got a chopper on him. You know what I mean? This is no joke. So I love what I'm seeing from Cam on at every level: energy, defense, and offensively.
Well, we got a lot to talk about when it comes to trade deadline and Kyrie. So let's get into the subreddit stakeout real quick.
The Suns Jam Session Subreddit Stakeout.
Oh, you got the
Oh,
wigs.
man.
They asked him for the
man.
wigs. He brought the wigs
So
back.
I was hanging out on the Detroit Pistons subreddit during this game, undercover as per usual, because I don't want them to know that a Suns fan was hanging out in their midst. And as you would suspect, it's kind of a dark, lonely place if you're you're a fan of the Pistons. But here are a few of the highlights, some of the notes that I found. One said, Ayton always turns into prime wilt against the Pistons. So there's a team that definitely knows what. You laughing at, Matthew?
A lot's going on right now, dude.
Ayton heard all the hate from Detroit and really just went off with somebody else's statement. This team would be unwatchable without Bojan. Nothing like having a pure shooter. The team was rooting for Saban. Obviously, Saban Lee spent some time in Detroit. They're saying Saban Lee revenge game incoming. And you saw that a little bit in the way that he played. He was a ball hog at times in this game simply because he wanted to show up and show out against his former team.
Yeah.
Bojan boxing out Ayton like a security guard escorting a heckler out of a political rally. It was very descriptive. Why does a shit-tier developing team decide to be heliocentric around a 33-year-old forward who has no long-term role in the organization? It's a valid question. And then somebody said, careful, people here will downvote you if you don't suggest Casey's a championship-winning coach with Bogdanovich, a Hall of Fame-level player, just entering his prime. Fucking idiots embrace the worst team in the league, putting the ball in the hands of a balding 44-year-old 100 times a game.
Wow.
This is the state of the Pistons, man.
Yeah.
Losing this bad to a Suns team without Booker's bad. When Torrey Craig is torching you, it's worse. And then the last highlight I had was Paul is so good at point guard. It's so to be that unselfish is so rare now. We spend a lot of time on the subreddit stakeouts on different games. I think it's the first time I've ever seen anyone actually compliment Chris Paul. Everyone docked.
You never get that.
You never get that. So tip of our cap to the Suns, the Pistons subreddit.
The Suns Jam Session subreddit stakeout.
My headphones are caught in the hair. Not used to having hair. It's the thing. Oh, all right. Well, let's hand out the Jam Star real quick because I want to talk about Kyrie and trade deadlines and such.
Jam Star of the game.
All right, Flex, you're the guest. Who's your Jam Star of this game?
DeAndre Ayton, man. Got to give it to him. You missed 2 shots. You scored 31 points. You grabbed 16 rebounds and missed 2 shots. And your team wins by 16. Yeah, it's DeAndre.
Matthew.
Yeah. As much as I hate the guy, DA just DA for sure, man. And I just want this all the time. It's not gonna always happen, but I love it when it happens, dude.
I'm going to cheat on this one, and I'm going to give it to the mighty trio of DeAndre Ayton, Mikal Bridges, and Cameron Johnson. They combined for 75 points in this game.
Fucking awesome together, dude.
75 points, and they missed a total of, 2, 4, 10 shots, and 6 of those came from Mikal.
Jeez.
You know, Johnson missed 2, Ayton missed 2. Bridges missed 6. He was 9 of 15. I mean, that's ridiculous right there. So kudos again to
you win.
yeah, but kudos again to the bench. You know, I think Saric, Wainwright, Jock Landale had a good game. The Lees were okay, but I just think all in all, the proper performance, if you will, when you play the Detroit Pistons. So before we talk about the next game, obviously everything that's going on with Kyrie, the trade deadline. Let's just start here. You know, for those of you who haven't listened to the Coast to Coast podcast, make sure you go check that out. I'm guilty. I haven't listened to it yet either. I didn't do any yard work today. That's typically on the weekends when I pop it in and I let Flex and Dan talk to me while I'm mowing the lawn and such. But Flex, Kyrie to Phoenix, what are you hearing?
I'm hearing it's very real. And I'm hearing it's not it's not something that just popped up yesterday because Kyrie requested a trade. It's very real. The interest is real. I do believe there's a good chance that if everything falls the right way, Kyrie Irving could be in Phoenix. I really do. Now, I know that's a polarizing figure.
It really is.
That's a polarizing personality. And I know that a lot of people didn't see this coming, but I do believe that my conversations behind the scenes, there's a lot of good reason why this makes sense. And it's going to get very interesting. I will say this: I recorded the Coast to Coast podcast yesterday, and I was telling Dan earlier, I'm a little upset that we recorded that episode, because after that episode, I went to bed at 4:30 a.m. yesterday talking to contacts, and today's been crazy and things change like the weather. And so there are some things that I did say on that podcast yesterday that have absolutely changed. And it's getting interesting, guys. But I will say this: this isn't just some pie in the sky thing. This is really happening. These are real discussions, and there's some real big dogs that are talking about this. Matt Ishbia being one of them. And so it's real. I don't know any way to put it, but it's very real, and it could happen. So this is something you got to keep an eye on and pay real close attention to.
Chris Paul coming off the bench, is that something you guys talked about on the pod, or was that your pod or some other pod?
That was my pod, and that is part of what
changes,
what's probably changed.
Okay, that's the first thing I thought of when I heard you say that. So.
Listen, without let's open it up. Guys, it gets touchy sometimes because I got to be very careful about how I say things and what I say. Yeah. To protect contacts and relationships, but I'm just gonna open it up, man, because I think this is stuff that's gonna eventually come to the surface. The Phoenix Suns are very much in on Kyrie Irving, and I do believe that at this point they're trying their best to try to acquire Kyrie Irving without losing Chris Paul. But the information I've gotten in the last 24 hours, it looks like it's probably going to take Chris Paul to get Kyrie Irving. And that's something people are going to have to live with. And you're going to have to really dig deep and understand that if you want a 30-year-old point guard who's an all-star, who besides all the other stuff off the court, is arguably one of the best point guards to ever do it, talent-wise, and a 30-year-old point guard that could team up with a 26-year-old Devin Booker for the next 4 to 6 years, assuming that everything between the ears can stay together. That's a dangerous dynamic. But now you're talking about a situation where if Brooklyn puts you on the line and says, hey, you want Kyrie, we can do this, but it's going to require Chris Paul. I think it's something people have to come to reality with, because I don't want to sound long-winded. I'm just going to say this. The writing is on the wall. Chris Paul is 38 years old. And, you have to really think about the fact that you could potentially be talking about 4 more months of Chris Paul, and that's it. This summer there's going to be some tough conversations. And so if you told me right now I'd have to give up 4 months of Chris Paul for 4 years of Kyrie Irving, I don't think I'm hesitating, brother. I really don't. So it's going to get very interesting, and we can get it a little bit more further in some of the details as we progress. But that's where I'm at right now.
And that's, I'd put together kind of when I first heard the news, my first initial inclination was just that. If you want to make the money work, it's Chris Paul, Jay Crowder, right? For Kyrie. Like that, straight up, that works as a trade.
That works, yeah.
It's mutually beneficial. You give to the Brooklyn Nets, the point guard. You give them Jay Crowder, who is a proven playoff commodity, a physical guy, a 3-and-D guy that could help that team. And so that's how it could be mutually beneficial for the Nets. And the Suns get Kyrie Irving for at least the next 4 months, right? That being said, Jay Crowder, his contract expires at the end of the year. Chris Paul's contract is not fully guaranteed next season, knowing that he's 38 years old. So you have to kind of look at what is your risk reward when it comes to this. What makes this conversation not a shoe-in for the majority of Phoenix Suns fans is the extracurricular activities of Kyrie Irving. Statements that he's made, attitude that he's made. He's not a team first guy. He's a me first guy. That concerns a lot of people. And I go back to the pure basketball talent, what he is, and that's where I kind of live at. And I can understand and empathize with the other side of that conversation and why those concerns might exist. But you also have to look at like this, as Flex just said. You can either not give up Chris Paul and Jay Crowder, and they're both gone at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Or you could bring in Kyrie Irving, who could give you his all for 4 months, help the team potentially win a title, and then have conversations in the offseason. Maybe if this culture is something that he agrees with James Jones, with Monty Williams as his head coach, with Devin Booker playing alongside him, it might be something that can at least tame him, if you will, knowing that he'll always end up being a me versus a we kind of player. Now, that being said, again, like Matthew, how do you feel about that?
It's tough. I mean, there's so many different directions you can go. The first directions, which I'm leaning towards, is getting Kyrie, just because of what you guys are talking about. Jay's going to be gone. Chris Paul, as much as we love him, that's the thing. The attachments we have with these players is the worst part, because we're winning. We love all these guys. Even a lot of us still love Jay. You know what I mean? So that's the hardest part. But then for basketball reasons, for winning reasons, you have to get a guy like Kyrie. I mean, what was it, like 6 years ago when he went to Boston? Like, we had a chance to trade for him. Everyone wanted Josh Jackson instead. Like, there's a lot of that. So it's like 50-50, man. Like, it's right down the middle. A lot of these polls are thrown out on Twitter. Do you want him? Do you not? It's 50-50 almost every time. So it's going to be hard. If we get Kyrie and, we lose CP3 and it doesn't work out right away and it takes some time, right, to adjust, that's when it's going to be panic here. And I just think that people have to realize that even if it's not this year, in the long run, when you have Booker and Kyrie as your backcourt, that's fucking insane.
Yeah, it's insane.
And if Kyrie's playing.
For the next, here's the one thing I and I'm sorry, guys, I didn't want to jump in.
You're good.
No, go ahead, man.
I will say this. This is not something that is just coming to light now. Matt Ishbia, some of the people, I don't want to say too many names right now, but there are some new people that are going to come in that are going to be advising Matt Ishbia on basketball.
Steve Nash.
Okay. I'll let you say names, right?
I know. Yeah. We asked James Jones about it the other day.
So, you got guys like Steve Nash. You got guys like, Isaiah Thomas. You got guys around the NBA that been around the game a long time and are advising Matt Ishbia. And I will say this. The first thing I'm confident in saying is that if the Phoenix Suns were to make this deal, I do not think there's going to be any question that Kyrie Irving is going to sign a deal with the Phoenix Suns. That's number one. So I don't think the worry that people have about if we get Kyrie, will he leave this summer? I don't think that. I think the right people are involved. Again, Matt Ishbia, Monty Williams, James Jones, Devin Booker has a great relationship with Kyrie Irving. There's a lot of background things that will, again, come to the surface later. But I think that's a big reason why I don't want to subscribe to the whole Kyrie thing and what he's done in the past. Let me tell you something, guys. I'm out here in the New York, New Jersey area. Kyrie went to high school in my town. You know what I'm saying? In my town. Like, he's out here with his people. And I subscribe to the fact that I think that's a big part of the problem. I think Kyrie needs to get out of this area and get into a market where he can kind of take a deep breath and get away from a lot of the distractions that come with playing in your hometown. Okay. So I think that helps with Phoenix. But at the end of the day, I like the deal because from a basketball perspective, what Matt and both of you guys have reiterated, you're potentially putting the best backcourt in basketball on your team for the next 4 to 6 years. Kyrie's 30, Book is 26.
And you still got Ayton, and you still got Bridges, and you still got Cam Johnson.
Right. And I also believe that, this summer is going to get interesting, man. So the future's bright for this basketball team. Are they going to actually pull the trigger? Who knows? But I will say this. I do think the Brooklyn Nets are intrigued with Chris Paul and Jay Crowder. I think there's a reason why Jay Crowder is very important to the Brooklyn Nets. I think they still feel like they can compete in the Eastern Conference, and they're trying to prevent the Milwaukee Bucks from getting that guy. So I think there's like killing two birds with one stone from that aspect. I also do think that Chris Paul can still be very efficient, but I think playing in the Eastern Conference will be very beneficial to Chris Paul. You get away from having to play Luka and Ja and Steph Curry and Dame and some of the guys that kind of put him to the task and make him work. And so I think Chris Haynes sent out the tweet yesterday, and I know people saw it. And I think he was dead on when he said that. I think this is a deal that keeps both teams in championship contention. and allows the Phoenix Suns to be extremely dynamic. When you're talking about Kyrie Irving, Devin Booker, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, DeAndre
And you're not
Ayton.
compromising any of your depth either.
Nope.
Because one guy's
Nope.
not playing, and the other guy, and it's just you're swapping out the position.
Would it just be
That's right.
those two though? Would it just
Would
be
there be
Yes,
another pick?
yes.
Would you have to throw in a Cameron Johnson?
No.
Okay, cool.
I'm being
I love that.
being told right now that it looks like if push comes to shove and you get down to the wire, I think the Nets will be okay with Chris Paul, Jay Crowder, and potentially a protected pick. And there are some rumblings of maybe need to add a second pick. I will tell you some information I just got before this show. The Lakers situation is not looking good.
That was my next question. Is
okay.
obviously they talked about the Lakers, the Clippers, and the Mavericks are the three other teams that are in the running, if you will, for Kyrie Irving. What do you feel about their situations?
I was just on the phone before I got on the show, man. And let me tell you something. The Lakers situation has taken a significant turn for the worse in the last couple hours. Right now, my understanding is the Lakers only want to give Kyrie Irving a contract that matches up with LeBron James. Okay. They are very hesitant to go past 2 years. And I'm being told Kyrie's camp is not with that. And that has put a real big roadblock with the Lakers. Now, I was told in the same breath, watch out for the Dallas Mavericks. The Dallas Mavericks are trying to pull a rabbit out of the hat, and they're trying to get aggressive. But I was also told that they don't have the draft capital or the flexibility in regards to draft capital that the Phoenix Suns have. So it may be a situation where the Suns and the Mavs are having a bit of a bidding war, but I think the Brooklyn Nets are more comfortable with going to Kevin Durant and saying, hey, if I gave you the choice, and we may be trading you this summer, but for right now, if I told you you're going to make a run in the Western Conference, who'd you rather have, Chris Paul and Jay Crowder or Dorian Finney-Smith and Spencer Dinwiddie? I think the consensus I'm hearing is that Kevin Durant is going to say, give me Chris Paul and Jay Crowder and let's go.
Yeah, because they know how to play it.
Right. And so it's going to get interesting. The Clippers are a dark horse, and they're a team that is lingering. But right now, based on the conversations I'm having, the leaders in the clubhouse are the Suns and the Mavericks at this very moment. That could change 10 hours from now. But right now, I'm hearing the Suns and the Mavericks are the leaders. And I think if the Phoenix Suns want Kyrie Irving, they can have him. They can get him.
And the other thing that people have to realize is with Matt Ishbia purchasing the team and having that become official on the 8th, the day before the trade deadline, is typically new owners like to make a splash right off the bat, right? Bringing Steve Nash around the organization is an instant win for Matt Ishbia, but also pulling the trigger on a trade like this or another trade period is something that will definitely resonate with fans. And that kind of takes me to my next question for both of you guys is, as we look at other guys, obviously Kyrie Irving is the big name. Flex, we wanted you on here just because the trade deadline's a week from now. We wanted to know, are there any rumors you're hearing? Is there anyone that you're targeting? Like, I've got a million trade ideas. I'm like, dude, what do we got to do to get like Alex Caruso here? Matisse Thybulle, let's bring him over. I don't know. Like, Matthew, do you have any names that you're kind of cued in on right now?
Well, this is like the summer. When Katie's brought up, I didn't care about anybody else. You know, there was nobody else that I wanted because I just knew that we needed Katie to win something. We need Kyrie to win a title. We need at least Katie, maybe two, to win a title. OG was always a name, right? OG Anunoby, but now it's like you hear Gambo, just Gambo himself. He's squashed everything else out there. Like Kyrie, I feel like is the only one still available. Like right now, is floating out there that he did not kill. So like you and him are the ones I listen to the most because you guys are always usually 100% accurate. I just think that I don't care about anybody else. I just want Kyrie. And really quick too, before like you answer John's question, but the whole thing with Kyrie is people are worried about him coming here and destroying a franchise, right? When you become a superstar in the league, I feel like you can go and kill any franchise, no matter what Kyrie did. Look at LeBron. Look at Anthony Davis. These guys, Anthony Davis left the pellet. Like these guys can do what they want on their teams. They can leave when they want. And the only thing I was kind of worried about is like, did KD know that Kyrie was going to do this? Is this something that he knew about? I don't know if you would know that. You can go ahead and answer John's question. And I just wanted to know that before we got off the pod.
Yeah. So real quick, just to answer the KD Kyrie thing. Those guys are good friends, man. And at the end of the day, what KD was going to do this summer, Kyrie was okay because it's a business. And it's the same thing I'm hearing from KD's perspective.
Okay.
At the end of the day, this is a job. And the Nets are refusing to give Kyrie Irving the security that he wants. And so I don't think Kevin Durant has a problem with that. And yes, those guys talk, and I don't think this is a problem. I'm going to tell you guys, I'm having a hard time, not with you guys, but just in general, because it's tough to say what I want to say, knowing that there's certain things I can't say right now. But I will say this. This has been percolating and potentially being orchestrated for some time. And I'm going to promise you I'm going to come on this show. And if the Suns get Kyrie Irving, I'm going to be able to tell you some stuff. But I will say this.
You could just text it to me all right now, Flash.
I will, brother. I will.
You'll just write a piece on it.
you know what, guys? Sometimes you see things around the game of basketball, and you just chalk them up as that's just normal. And then sometimes when you have some of this information, you see it happening. You're like, oh man, that's not normal. So there's a reason why there were certain people in the building at a certain time a couple weeks ago. Try to connect the dots, guys. But there's a reason why certain people were around. There's this reason why certain dates are being talked about a lot. And so this is not new. The Phoenix Suns have been sitting on this Jay Crowder thing for a reason. People were saying, why they having Drake create? Well, when you know some of these things, you just got to be patient. And so I know I kind of ventured off a little bit here, but at the end of the day, I'm with Matt on this. I think right now
it's the only one that matters.
It's not that it's the only one that matters, but based on the conversation I'm having, it's the only one that's really intriguing the people that matter.
Which makes sense because we talk about other transactions and we have throughout the entire front end of this season. That's what we do. We talk about Kyle Kuzma, but we talk about what it would take to get a Kyle Kuzma here. You hear the OG Anunoby talks on like no dunks. It's like 3 first-round picks and this, and this, and this. It's like, listen, you can't leverage the entire future for somebody who isn't necessarily worth all of that. When you talk about Kyrie, that's when you could really start to say, yeah, maybe 2 first-round picks, maybe 3 first-round picks. It's Kyrie Irving. But again, due to the uniqueness of the situation, the leverage is completely in the advantage of the Phoenix Suns here because you get something that's going to allow you to continue to compete this season, or you get nothing. And Kyrie leaves at the end of the season. So it's not the same thing as like a Kuzma who isn't expiring, or I believe he has a player option next year, or an OG Anunoby who's under contract for multiple seasons. And that's what's the uniqueness of the situation. So I guess I'll end it with this question. This takes me back to like the KD stuff this past summer. Is James Jones being what's the right phrase I'm looking for here? It was the same thing with KD this last offseason, right? Matthew mentioned it. We were so focused on KD that unfortunately nothing else happened around this organization because it was kind of like, hey, KD or bust. Are the Suns going to do the same thing with this trade deadline where it's like it's Kyrie or bust? So if the Kyrie thing doesn't fall through, if the Mavericks end up getting them, do they have a secondary and tertiary option to try to assist in improving this team and move on from Jay Crowder at the same time prior to the trade deadline occurring?
Yes.
Handcuffed. That was the word I was looking for.
Yes. Listen, I will say this. I said something on the Coast to Coast last week. The Suns are trying to be very careful and not be stupid. Okay. And being stupid is, giving up a first-round pick or 2 first-round picks for a guy that's going to marginally move the needle.
Exactly.
Okay? And so I think the Phoenix Suns right now are looking at this as a unique opportunity, but it's a 5-day. I want to stress this. It's a 5-day window to get Kyrie Irving and execute this, because if he gets past the deadline, you have no shot at getting Kyrie as a free agent due to cap stipulations. Okay. So that's number one. Number two is, yes, I do believe that they're looking for guard help inevitably. And if they don't get Kyrie, I still think they're going to trade Jay Crowder and they're going to add some pieces that are going to help them be a little bit more competitive. But I think at that point, they may potentially be okay with kicking the can down the road and waiting for the summertime, because the Suns are looking for a big fish, guys. They are realizing that Devin Booker is about to enter the prime, and they are not trying to waste too many years of Devin Booker's prime. And so if you take and you prioritize this year, if you don't get Kyrie Irving and you prioritize this year and it doesn't work, and you handcuff yourself in the summertime, that's going to be very bad business. And so I do think Kyrie is the priority. I do think if they don't get Kyrie, they still will trade Jay Crowder and potentially add some pieces that'll help them out. But I don't think they'll do it at the cost of handcuffing themselves in what's going to be a tremendously big summer that could include guys like LeBron James, Joel Embiid, Kevin Durant again, and so on and so forth. So Matt Ishbia and his advisory group are coming in here trying to secure the future. And if that means kicking the can down the road into the summer, if you can't execute this Kyrie thing, I'm okay with it. I honestly am.
Yeah, and the way the Suns are now, they're a destination for a lot of guys, but we're at a point where if this goes through with Kyrie, we're gonna be a championship contender for years and years out. Like, not even with Kyrie on this team, but you just know this team, this front office is focused on building everything around Booker to make sure that every year we have a chance to win a championship. Right now, we don't. If we get Kyle Kuzma, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, if that happens, I don't know. I don't think so. So this stuff has to happen. It has to break your heart a little bit as a Suns fan to see Chris Paul leave and stuff like that. But we want to win a title. And I think it's just every year now, it's going to be who's out there. Who could we get? Because these guys want to come here to play with Booker. And then now maybe we have the money to go get these guys. So that's the focus, I feel like, every year. And it should be. And that's awesome. Like, we should be excited about this. I feel like a lot of people are kind of down and upset. It's like, dude, they're trying to put the best players on the court for us to beat the team we lost to, like, last year, like the Mavericks or whoever we're going to lose to, like the Warriors. You know what I mean? Like, we have to be excited about this. I don't understand why it's so kind of sad.
Because it's Kyrie. Because it's Kyrie. Because he's polarizing. He's eccentric.
You know what, though? I'm sorry, man. You know what? People didn't want Chris Paul.
Oh yeah, amen.
People didn't want Chris Paul. I remember a day where people. I remember Charles Barkley. Trying to spit on a guy and hit a little girl. I remember Charles Barkley throwing a guy out of a restaurant in Milwaukee. Those things happen. Let's not forget that. There were people that didn't think Charles Barkley was a good fit in Phoenix. Guess what? That worked out pretty damn good.
Yes, sir.
And the same thing with Chris Paul. So. These are rare opportunities. I'm sorry to cut you off, brother.
No, you're 100% right, though. The fact that somebody who is as talented as Kyrie Irving has the potential to put on a Phoenix Suns uniform. These are exciting times, Suns fans. Enjoy this. How long have we gone when the free agents come around and they're just like, oh yeah, we're Lakers. So we'll see. Plenty of things that are going to happen this upcoming week. Flex, we thank you for your time. We thank you for hanging out with us once again. Again, by pure dumb luck, all this crazy shit happened, but we'll have you on again once this all happens so you can tell some of those fun stories, because I know you got some fun stories. But again, Jamsters, we appreciate you hanging out with us. Hit that thumbs up button while you're here. Subscribe, rate, and review, all of that fun stuff. We'll be coming to you live. When's our next game? Is it Tuesday in Brooklyn?
Tuesday. Yep.
Tuesday in Brooklyn, baby.
Oh shit.
Tuesday in Brooklyn, baby. And I'll be all around it. So hit me up, guys.
Yeah, we might have you come on again, man. So
I might write from the hotel. Let me know.
Flex, let us know where everyone can follow you, my man.
Hey, Flex from Jersey on Twitter, Flex from Jersey on Instagram. And again, Coast to Coast Podcast, 98.7 Post Game Show, KSRN, and occasionally on Fox 10 Phoenix with my guys, Richard Sainz over there at the Sports House. Richard Sainz, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Matthew, where can we find you?
At Nonstop on Twitter, and also at Suns Jam.
At Nonstop, shut the fuck up. And you can follow me at Darth Void. You can read my writing at brightsideofthesun.com. So again, Flex, we appreciate your time. Matthew, get us out of here.
Go home, love your family. Okay.